Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Duke's Farm. My name is Dennis Duke Wonyala. As usual, if you're new here, please ensure that you subscribe. I have moved, like I told you, about 300 kilometers away from the capital city of Uganda, and I'm still traversing Tororo, that is in the eastern part of the country. And today we have an inspiring story of a young man. He decided to also leave his job to concentrate on goat farming. What even makes it more interesting is the fact that he started with very little capital, very small piece of land, and he's been growing, and as we speak now, he got my attention, and I'm right here to have a conversation with him. How are you, Sevo?
I'm good, Mr. J.
Please say hello to our viewers. Hello. And your name and the location where we are today.
Okay. Hello, viewers. My name is Isaac Owori from Tororo District. I'm a Japadola. I'm here currently as a goat farmer in my area. This is Musasa. Roughly it's 32 kilometers from Tororo town, okay. So up to Nabioga sub-country, then the village is Musasa village.
Or is a Jap?
Yes.
What is so special about the Jap people? Anything special? Like for us in Bugisu, we have circumcision. Imbalu. If you don't know, guys, you need to look up for Imbalu. And this is an even year, so we have the Imbalu culture celebration that is going to happen around August. Keep posted. What is so special about the Jap?
What is so special about the Jobs? One thing I know about them is they are so welcoming.
You know about them or you know about yourselves?
Because I know about myself. It's my identity. Yeah.
Okay.
We are welcoming people. That's why we can accommodate so many people in our district. Literally, if you go to our major town, you find all sorts of different tribes trying to make a living in the town.
Okay.
So that's one thing which makes us unique to Tororo.
Okay.
That's welcoming.
Before we go into the conversation today of how this gentleman actually started with about 2 or 3 or 5 goats to grow to even up to 50 and so forth, I want to remind you that don't forget to go and pass by Suur House, Bukoto. We have very delicious meals. I'll be glad to host you myself if you come around. So tell us, at what point do you say enough of employment, I'm going into goat farming?
I believe my point is inspiration. Once you reach that point of inspiration and you know this is what I'm supposed to do and this is how I'm supposed to live for the rest of my life, then I believe that's the point where you can start from. As long as you have the passion and inspiration for something, you can start. And then basically knowledge. Those two things, to me, they're the key things that pushed me. Once you're inspired to do something, don't wait, start it. Because the more you start or the more you are caged into something you're doing that you don't like, which means you're not moving on to that starting point.
Okay. So how many goats did you start with?
I started with 7 local goats. Yeah, there were 6 female and then 1 male. Still it was a local goat. So that's how I started, and initially we were using the local methods of tying them on the neck and taking them to eat and so on. But I used to feel the pain as a goat farmer. Tying a goat, you would see the goat is not satisfied, it's not looking that healthy. So that's what pushed me more and said I should expand and go into real commercial goat farming. Okay.
So you decide to go commercial. How much money did you have at that moment?
At that moment, I did not have quite that much money. Actually, the savings I was making from work, I deposited them with some company. So there's a company called Me Farm. It's in Kampala. So I did get them through online, through when I was searching my Google. So the fact I was interested in goat farming, so I went ahead and said, okay, how do I work, get some small money, at the same time trying to purchase these good other goats besides the local goats I had 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's how I get interested into depositing some small savings. So which means I had little, I did not have that much. So your 200, your 300, 400, I kept on depositing. Meanwhile, I had some local goats to keep the other business running.
Okay. So you said you started with about 7 goats.
Yes.
You grew. What is the highest number of goats you've achieved at your farm?
At my farm, I've achieved a total of 70 goats. Yeah, and then some we sold them off because the locals want to buy other items or upgrade to buy more exotic goods. So I kept on selling the locals. So that's how.
One of the key components that limits us as young people is the fact that, first of all, we are not well established in terms of finances, and two, we do not have land.
Yes.
How did you maneuver the issue of land? Did you buy land as well immediately when you're starting your farm?
No, not really. What I did, the issue of land is, with this goat business, what I advise people, start with what you have. So basically I had a small piece of land, and that was for my father. So I just need a small piece of land. How can I make use of that small land? Otherwise, had I been scared of saying that I need a bigger chunk of land to start, I wouldn't have started the game. But the issue is there was a small piece of land. That's why I said initially I was tying my goats on the paddocks like that, so that they would grow up from there.
Okay. So how big was the land that you started with your 7 goats?
With 7 goats, roughly I can say 2 acres. I can say, yeah, 2 acres. Because an acre you get 8 plots of 50 by 100. So that small acre of 2 acres, so I could do the paddocking, same time planting the pastures for the future.
Okay. So you started with local goats.
Yes, sir.
What now prompts you to go into exotic kind of goats?
Basically, among the 5 principles of starting goat farming, one of the key principles is genetics. So if you know the game of genetics in goat farming, then you are good to go. I had local goats, but I could see their growth rate is not that fast. They also take long to get on heat, because a local goat usually takes 1.5 years to 2 years to get on heat so that it can be bred. So in the game of goat business, you have to think about time versus profit. So if you go into local goats, just know you're going to take much time. So that's what prompted me to go into the commercial hybrids.
Okay. What is your experience so far raising local vis-a-vis raising the exotics?
It's really interesting to see these hybrids grow very fast than the locals. So what basically I've seen, or out of my experience, the locals grow slowly at a slow pace, because the fact that a local goat takes 1.5 years to get on heat, which means you will take much time to get the profit out of it. Unlike these exotic breeds like the Savannahs, the Boas, usually 10 months you're good to go. They can be served, they can be bred. So imagine someone keeping the hybrid goats. By 10 months is already, having goats which can be bred, and which means is having less time. Unlike the locals, which they have to take 1.5 years or even close to 2 years. So which means time and profit is the key thing in this thing.
Okay. What do you feed your goats here at your farm?
At my farm, nutrition is also one of the basic principles of goat farming. So basically, as a farmer, you should know what grasses are you feeding your goats and what content or what nutrients are they getting them from. So basically, in my farm, I do have caliandra, because caliandra is one of the queens of protein. Then I do feed them with alfalfa. Alfalfa is actually the queen of proteins. You get around 21% crude protein from it. I usually harvest it and then dry it and then crush it. Then I can serve my goats.
So there's something that you talked that was off camera about you exchanging your goats in terms of goats and they give you land.
Yes.
Have you been able to do that?
Yes, it's one of being creativity in this goat farming, because you need land to do the goat farming, and if you want to go on a bigger scale commercial, you need land. So what basically I did from the locals I had and from the process I had, so the best thing what was to do is, since I can convert the goats into the cows, and then the cows will give you convert them into land. So because the method of purchase of land in our area, it's so much easy and interesting with cows. People love the cows so much. So if you tell someone this land is worth maybe 10 or 15 million, so you usually sit down and negotiate and say, okay, how many cows will I give you for this land? And that's how I kept on expanding slowly by slowly. So that's the whole game. Yeah.
What has been some of the challenges as a young man doing agriculture? First of all, how did the community see you? I mean, not very many people most especially us young people are into farming. What did the society think about you? I mean, you've gone to school, you've studied, and then you're back at your village doing farming. Did they believe in you in the beginning?
No, not really. This is a very interesting part of my story also, because when I decided and say, okay, I'm done with office job, putting on my tie 24/7, looking smart, the fact that I was once actually a banker. So then I said, I'm done with all this kind of life. I want to do what I really love with passion. It's a bit tricky. My parents also did not perceive it well, and were saying, okay, so how will this turn out to be something that is what? So, but the more I kept on educating them and telling them, yeah, for sure, this can change our lives. For sure, this is what they call generational wealth. Instead of having employment, if I leave that job, my kids cannot enter that same kind of office. So I decided, let me think of something that's generational. The community also, it was so tricky for the community to believe that these things work. And they had all kinds of cultural perceptions, the fact that maybe these are hybrid goats, they will not survive here. So it was a bit challenging, let me say like that. So, but we persevered as a young farmer. You keep moving on since you know what you really want. And then I think when you have passion, you overcome these challenges.
What are some of the challenges that, apart from the perception of the locals and your family, what other challenges have you so far had in regards to raising goats in such an area?
Yeah, in such an area, since also the land is limited for grazing, so and I'm using a semi-intensive kind of method of farming, whereby my goats, they are taken outside to go and graze around. So at times you go beyond people's land, and people have planted their crops, they have planted their items. So when the goats do encroach their crops, so it's one big challenge. I usually have to come back to handle such cases, complaints about the crops being eaten, maybe the animals passing their land. So that's one of the big challenges I've had also. Then also, yeah, also management, workers also. Yeah, it's one thing also you can have challenges with, but in the long run, if you get good management skills out on the workers, such things can be solved.
Okay, so you said you're doing semi-intensive.
Yes.
By this you mean they graze a little bit and then you bring them and substitute.
Yes.
Could you help us, probably somebody out there wants to do the same system, but they don't know how to go about it. What plants or what grasses should somebody plant?
Okay. Semi-intensive system, basically it's where my goats are taken outside to graze outside in the morning hours, usually in the dry spell 9:30 to 10 o'clock. When the grass is dry, there's no dew, so usually take the goats outside, they will go and graze, and then they will graze for roughly 3 hours, or when they're really satisfied, 3 hours maximally. So we'll come back, they come back to the shelter. And then what happens, I have some grasses I planted, as I told you. I have the caliandra, I have the alfalfa, and then I have the Spanapia pakchong. Those are the key game changers in this semi-intensive method. There's also Brocario marato, there's Chris Guyana also. So you give the goats to supplement on it also. And then there are also some other shrubs like neem tree. It's a very good one. Goats do love it so much, and on top of that, it has a very high nutrient value. So those are some of the pastures I have in my farm.
How were you able to develop, to grow your numbers from about 7 that you had initially to around 70 goats that you had at some point maximum? How were you able to grow that number?
Thank you, Duke. In this goat farming, usually there is one key good important scientific method. It's called natural synchronization. It's whereby you make sure that your goats all breed at the same time and they will give birth at the same time. So it's one good method. If farmers apply it, their numbers will increase. Unlike the old traditional method of leaving the goats to get served anytime, so you don't get fluctuating numbers. So if you use what they call natural synchronization, it's whereby you put the back in the female section for the goats for a period of 3 months, then they are served. So for those 3 months, you'll be 100% sure that they're being served. Then after you count your 5 months, And indeed, after 5 months, what happens is that all your goats will begin giving birth in the same period. So in the same week, same month, and that's how you get the number.
So how have you been managing inbreeding? You've been changing males, or you just sell the offsprings?
Yeah, one basic way how to manage inbreeding starts from tagging. So if you tag your goats, and surely, which means you know the back which you used for your breeding time, which means it will help you to avoid the inbreeding, which means you surely know that the kids of this month or this period came from the father. So for me, tagging is one key game changer in this thing. It's easier to manage inbreeding once you do tagging. So what happens when you know these kids of this father are ready to be served, you have to definitely get another back for them. So that's how I manage inbreeding.
Okay. Let's talk about the general population. Have the leaders here taken it upon themselves to encourage more people to join commercial farming?
It's one thing that is interesting. What I know is the leaders get to know what's happening within the locality, that there's something changing the community. People are raising up goats in a different format. They're raising up chicken in a different format. I've experienced leaders coming at my farm. They do inquire and find out what you are doing. And I also get to share my information with them. And I see it's a great improvement in the community as they discuss in their high meetings how they can use upcoming farmers or established farmers to change the lives of the community.
What is your goal with the goat farming business? What do you want to achieve? Where do you see yourself in the next couple of years?
That's interesting. I do have a vision. When I began this whole project, I do have a vision, and I do have a motto that's so interesting that keeps me moving on. When I began goat farming, out of passion, because passion drives you, and definitely now I do have a motto of from the farm to the plate. So it's one motto that drives me to push harder and harder. So I see myself having an established restaurant, so that I do provide people with this quality meat and all kinds of different packages and all kinds of different deliveries. So on top of changing the diet for people, it's something that will be employing people on further scale. So I see myself in some few years, it will be a game changer in life.
Who inspired you to join farming?
Oh, that's interesting. Wow, there's one gentleman called Hamisi in Kayunga. He's one of the great goat farmers in Uganda. I really got inspired by what he was doing. Then I also got inspired by people who release information freely with their hearts, the likes of Dennis Duke. So such people have inspired us, and it's what keeps us moving on in this game.
So you see, guys, I usually say that if COVID didn't teach you, if COVID didn't make you, then nothing ever will. Because he is a gentleman that was affected by the effects of COVID-19, and he decided to say, you know what, let me go, enough is enough. And I've equally had the same share of challenges that pushed me to do whatever I do currently. As we wind up, what message would you have for a young man, a young lady, anybody out there watching that are not yet decided to join farming? What's your last word to them?
Yeah, I would say 2-3 words to the people outside there. One thing to young people who are working, don't sit there forever. Think about also retirement, and the earlier the better. That's one thing I can push out. Then to the youths, there's a lot we can do. If you feel you're unemployed, don't put that much blame on the government. You can start by yourself. You can start with your passion. What do you desire? There's a lot of opportunities outside there. So get your passion and move towards your passion and live your life. In terms of people working for jobs, trust me, if once you retire from that job, they will replace you. So think ahead beyond. So which means the money you get, think ahead beyond that. So that's what I can share with the people.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how much money you're going to give me for bringing you such inspirational stories, but in case you can't, please go and support us at Suur House. I'll be more than glad. But if you can send me some money, I'll be glad. But here I'm not doing for money, I'm working for the people. For the people of Bulambuli, I'm coming. I'll be coming there very soon to capture stories of my people, stories of farmers, stories of different stuff, because we need to elevate Bulambuli as well. So be rest assured that I'm coming to my home area. There's a lot. Come 2026, I'll tell you a secret. My name is Dennis Duke Onyala. Until then, it's a goodbye from me, but continue subscribing, follow up this gentleman. In case you're in Tororo and you want to visit his farm, reach out to me or call on those numbers. You'll be more than glad to be hosted at his farm. Until then, ciao. Ciao.